Anderson on CJOB 133. Glad you stuck around because we're going to have a great conversation right now. Zofia Love is a palliative communication expert. Zofia Dove. She's shaking her head because I got her last name wrong. I apologize. I'm sorry. It's because when you walked in the room, I thought of love. You're such an outgoing personality. Zofia Dove is her name. She's a palliative communications expert. And her website, if you're curious, is ZofiaDove.com. ZofiaDove.com. We'll talk more about that, and she's got workshops coming up. So what is a palliative communication expert?
It's someone who knows how to be fully present and totally focused on a patient and deliver care with humor, which is client-centered.
So you're kind of new at this in the sense that you cared for patients. Tell us about your background a bit.
Well, I'm a physiotherapist from Poland who came to this country unable to speak English. And in the process of learning the language and working in a healthcare system, I started observing things which otherwise I wouldn't if I had the ability to communicate by words. And that slowly translated into ability to be totally focused on the person in front of me. And when you are fully present, when you are mindful within yourself, when you are totally focused on the patient, then the human shows up without any preparation.
Mm-hmm. So you retired essentially as a therapist, and then
no, in Canada I was working as rehabilitation assistant.
Okay.
In 3 hospitals here in Winnipeg.
Right, and then you retired from that, and then you realized, hey, I've got a talent here. I have an ability to help people. And then you sort of went out on your own as a palliative communication expert. So now now that we've sort of got the background, so what did you notice? You said you noticed things that you wouldn't have otherwise noticed if you didn't understand the words. So what were some realizations that you made that led you down this path?
As you are unable to speak or communicate verbally, you are receiving information from others which are nonverbal. Body language, facial expressions, intentions, which are basically transferring into how you're being treated by another. And as I was in that state for many years, as I was learning to communicate, I started realizing later in delivering care to the patients, as they were testifying to me over and over, that they are very much so attuned with the state that the caregivers are in.
Right. And you realized that humor is a really important player here.
Absolutely. Why I realized this? Because it was being said to me by my patients. They would say to me, you are like a breath of fresh air. You bring lightness. You bring life. You know, you are so authentic. And then over and over, it was being said to me to the point, or they would say to me, you walk into the room, I feel better. So after a while, you're hearing this over and over, you start examining yourself as to what am I doing differently that other people do? What do I know? How do I approach it?
Yeah.
And at the end of my journey in the healthcare system in Manitoba, my patients were literally, especially my palliative patients, would say to me, you have to go out there and teach others how do you do it. Because here you can help few. But if you share your knowledge and how you approach this and how you deliver it to us, then you help many indirectly. So this is what my passion is, to share with others the knowledge, the experience I have, how to introduce humor in a most tactful way.
Yeah. You're not just dealing with patients that are dying, although that's certainly part of what you do. And I see it completely. I understand the power of humor, and sometimes the power of humor on the darkest day, right? And how the right person with the right attitude and the right personality can lift you when you're down. So I get it. I understand it. Are you finding this is a tough sell, or are people going, yeah, that makes sense?
It depends on a person. I think it all comes from the background of a person as to the understanding what death is, because there is certain cultural association to that understanding or background of individual. I think there is a lot to be said about how we approaching death. Our patients don't have the same experience as we see it. If we come close to them and we really open up and ask them sincerely to share with us, if they trust us, they'll tell us they'll give us testimonials which are far-fetched from our belief system as to what's happening within them. I don't think we listen to our patients enough, especially those who are really on the edge between life and death as we know it.
Mm-hmm. And, it's funny when I first heard, and Barbara Bose is a friend of the radio station. She told me about you, and I thought, well, this is interesting. I want to find out more about this. And my first thought of you was, you go into the room and, the spotlight comes on, you got a microphone, and you do a 15-minute set of jokes, with some guy on the drums going, pa-dum-punch. Well, it's nothing like that, I'm sure. But tell us how you use humor then to heal, because that's really what you're kind of doing here.
And it never happens instantaneously, although I do have this connection and this awareness with some people. Yeah. It happens gradually. Every relationship needs to establish trust. There has to be equal level where compassion kicks in through humor, if you will. Mm-hmm. The way I introduce humor, it's never at the expense of another or the suffering of family or dynamics which are around. Mm-hmm. It requires truthfulness, courage, and vulnerability on the person who is introducing the humor. Yeah. There are stages to it. I believe we all, and I've been through situations and I've given presentations where the people in the group were able to access it by the process I was introducing them to as they were slightly practicing with me, interacting with each other. Yeah. It is in all of us. It's there all the time. And it is a matter of individuals, all of us, accessing that state.
Do you joke around and laugh about the pain they're in and the sickness that they're suffering with? Or?
Not in such a way. The humor will be in something. I'll give you an example. I was working on intensive care unit. Patient was very lethargic, but at times I could tell, since I had consistent visits with the patient, I got to know the person, right? So one day the person is very absent, if you will, another the awareness is there. There was a family sitting by the bedside of the patient, and as I walked into the room, I asked them how long they're waiting here, how long the visit goes on. They would say over an hour, and I said, did you have any signal from the person? I named the person because I knew the name, and they would say, no, he's lethargic like that. So I started calling on the person's name, and I said, please, for goodness sake, they're sitting here. Give them some sign of life so they can know that you are, knowing that they're here. He opened his eyes and I said, for goodness sake, at least wink. And he winked.
Right. So yeah.
The humor is not always in verbal. Yeah. It's in action. And patients are eagerly, when the time is right, they eagerly participate in it. Mm-hmm. And the family was ecstatic. It gives people amazing memory before the loved one passes on. There is a lot of research behind it as to why is it important, why is it working for us. The caregivers are empowered, energized by these moments. The family members are having beautiful memories. The patients are showing the full presence beyond the suffering of the body, unless they're overwhelmed with pain, like you mentioned. No one is introducing humor in the situations when people are in an active state of grieving or they are in an active state of pain. Yeah. Absolutely, it would be crazy.
And the only reason I ask that is because sometimes, in the news business, we deal with horrible stories every day. Mm-hmm. And, sometimes our sense of humor as journalists and as reporters is people would hear it and think that's morbid and dark, but because sometimes we do make light of horrible things that are happening in our world. And so that's why I asked. I wonder if, and I guess it, as you said, it depends on your relationship with your patient and how long you've been together and how comfortable that patient is with you and you are with them. I'm just trying to get a sense of how the humor comes into it.
The humor comes to it because there is a connection between two human beings. Yeah. Through humor, it brings us on the same level. And yes, patients will respond positively to that, which is very obvious. Mm-hmm. The open gowns, hospital gowns, which we all know are not working fully as they intended. And the patients are very aware of it. And sometimes by avoiding speaking about the obvious, we're making it worse. It's like the elephant in the room no one speaks about, but everyone knows. But if it's introduced again tactfully, and I don't mean making fun of patients or clients, when it's introduced at the right time, the right way, everyone who is involved participates in it willingly, and that actually empowers, I would say,
Yeah.
and engages everybody. These moments in the difficult and heavy work of caring for others are basically beneficial and igniting, energizing, bring normality of life to the situations which are otherwise heavy and difficult.
You said something near the start of our conversation that I think makes a lot of sense. You said we need to start listening to our patients, and I think you're right that we need to start thinking of different ways to treat and help patients at whatever level they're at, whether they are palliative or any other level of care needed. We need to listen more, and essentially what you are another caregiver. I'm not to say just another caregiver, because you the people that deal with patients like you, Zofia, are saints. You're angels. You really are. It takes special people to do what you do. But I think this is maybe just kind of another tool in your toolbox that you use to help patients and people.
Absolutely. What it also allows, even though you would think humor is just about laughing, that communicational tool, which is also compassionate, social, psychological, and spiritual tool at the same time, I believe it should be taught at school. What it allows is to access all of that, which is hard for patients to name. So after laughing together, we quite often go to tears, which at many cases are very trapped, and people have inability to release them. So all the other emotions will surface after that, and I really much so talk about it and speak about it and share with my groups when I present, and I teach how to deal with those situations as well, because once laughter is present, it's like a cork, if you will, which opens up everything else, and you will learn way more about life and death that you ever bargained for.
Well, Zofia Dove is a palliative communication expert. Her website is zofiadove.com, ZOFIADOVE.com. She has a workshop coming up on March 2nd. This is for caregivers.
Yes.
So other people like you that want to sort of learn your technique and pick your brain, they can do that on March 2nd. You can find out more at the website. Zofia Dove, thank you very much. Really appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Nice to meet you. Keep doing the good work out there. 1:45, 1:45. We'll be right back.